morning, Denzel. Full ahead, Bo. We're off to Margate.
Give yourself, Uncle Albert, or you won't be going. Down to Margate. And don't forget your buckets, spades and buckets and all. Down to Margate. We'll have a bit of jelly to the coffee store. Down to Margate. We go on the pier and we'll have a beer aside of the sea. Down to Margate. Oh, you can keep the host of rum. I tell you, mate, I'd rather have a day down to Margate with all my family.
Hello and welcome to Let's Make Tracks on a trip down to Margate. I'm here at the WonderWorks and we're going to have a look at the 3D printer demonstration I have in store because I know nothing about 3D printing. So let's have a look.
Good morning, we're at WonderWorks at HORNBY Hobbies in Margate. This morning we've got a demonstration on our Humbrol 3D printers that we offer out in our place. The idea of us generating these as a product to offer was really to try and get 3D printers into the household. Most people have heard of 3D printers, but actually physically seeing them and physically having a go at them quite often is not easy. So we felt that being able to offer something at a sensible price point, trying to get this out into the modeller's hands and the hobbyist's hands was very important. So I've got 8 3D printers running here, each creating different types of models, just to try and demonstrate what the 3D printers can do, the types of things that they can print, and then equally there's some limitations. Obviously these are a hobby grade item, and these 3D printers go right the way up to industry standard grade 3D printers. Things like Formula 1 teams use 3D printers to create their components for their Formula 1 class. This is a small selection of the types of things that we've created. So these have obviously been painted, and we used Humbrol paints to paint these. And then these are some of the models that we've created that are unpainted at the moment. This process is a PLA material, so it's a solid plastic, 1.75 millimeters in diameter plastic. It comes down into a head here that's heated, superheated, and it melts the plastic, and it starts to print the plastic in a X and Y axis, and then it will move up by 0.2 of a millimeter, so the Z axis, and then print the next layer, and up by 0.2 of a millimeter, and keep on going up until it creates the component. If you imagine, this printer is printing an egg cup at the moment, so it's currently printing this disc, and it will slowly get smaller into the middle there, it will slightly get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you will have your egg cup, and we've got a rocket being printed here, and a container for a model railway layout, and a cat and a boat for the model railway layout. So all sorts of things that you can print and let your heart run wild. The physical files that I'm printing here come from libraries online. There's many libraries online with hundreds of thousands of files. So I've just picked some files, some free files, and downloaded those to show how easy it is to print. You can also obviously create your own files if there's something in particular that you wanted to model and 3D print, and that will require some 3D CAD software. But again, there's lots of free 3D CAD softwares available. There's some CAD software that will create some more sort of industrial type of components, like this small church, and then there's some software that could create something freeform, like this characterised dinosaur, that might be from maybe a Pixar film or something like that. But once you have the 3D file, you can then physically 3D print the components. The time, one of the questions that gets asked quite a lot on this is how long will it take to print, and it's very much dependent on 2 things. One is the quality that you want to print it at. Even with this, there's sort of 3 levels of quality that you can print at. These are all set up to the highest level, which then takes the longest. It's moving it slowly and in smaller increments. And then equally the physical size of the product. The bigger the mass of the product, the longer it will take, because it takes the head the time to move round on each layer before it can laminate up and up and up. So as an example, if you was creating maybe a pencil and you're printing it in this direction, it's just going round and round and round and then get to the point. But if you was creating a big cup, it's got to go round and then it moves up and up. It will take longer because its physical mass is larger than the pencil sticking upwards. And that's basically it. These are hobby grade items, like I said at the beginning of the presentation. So there are some limitations, but I think it's a really nice entry into the hobby. I think it's a nice complement into sort of the crafting and the hobby, hobbyist and the things that they're doing, be it airfix components or Hornby train components or dioramas or wargaming. Some wargaming components we printed. Actually, we printed. We tried to print. We printed them, but not used them yet. Some rollers, and again, it was on a free website. So you can put clay down onto your diorama, and then you roll the roller across it, and it makes like a cobbled floor onto the bottom of the diorama, and then build into your model. So it's not just components; you can then create tools. Actually, this is a small clamp. So if you're gluing two parts together, you slide the clamp together, slide the clamp together, slide this little wedge in, and it just holds the two components together while they dry for an airfix modeler, and then you undo it, and you've got the two dry components. And it's just to try and give some ideas. You can create some fun little components like this little dinosaur, a mechanical component that's maybe a tool, or you can create a display product maybe on the side of your model road.
So I deal mostly in TT120.
Yes.
So how well would it print components for, that say, buildings or maybe even figures? They'd only be...
So buildings, that's probably a TT120 scale building, maybe slightly smaller than that, maybe that's even in scale. So that's a church, 3D printed, and you can decorate that with Humbrol paints and rendering panels and the like. This is a figurine, so this is probably slightly larger than HO scale. So if you imagine he then gets smaller, his definition will then start to shrink. But it depends on where you position it on your model railway layout, the level of finishing that you're doing to this. There's elements of finishing that you can do to filling and rubbing down the laminations. I'll show you. Is that in scale there? Sorry, in focus. You can see the laminations in the figurine there. So TT, I think it depends on what you want to print. If you're printing buildings, yes. I think figurines might be a little bit too small. What generally happens on figurines is when it's trying to print the legs, imagine taking that down to TT scale, that's now only probably 1.5 millimetres in diameter, so the head is trying to do all these little laminations on 1.5 millimetre circles, and so then the legs will start to go all bowed, and so we have tried these. I brought one down. There is one of these, probably half the size of that. It's still not TT scale. TT and 00.
Okay, so when you buy one of these printers, do they work straight out of the box?
Pretty much so. There's a little bit of calibrating that you have to do. So there's 4 screws on the printer table. You press a button at the back of the machine, the head comes down, gets to the table, and basically you have to bring the table up to the printer head. And you have to move it into 4 corners of the table. That's so when it starts to print, it starts to print touching the base, the printer base, so your first lamination is stuck to a base. So then when you start to move up, your model stays where it is and your head moves. Because otherwise your model starts moving with your head and the print fails. So providing you do this piece of calibration, which takes a matter of seconds to do, and there's a small A5 instruction, you're then off and running. The key to this is picking your files, either choosing something that someone has already modelled and shared online, so you can then download and 3D print yourself, or getting some CAD software and 3D printing something yourself that you've designed, and then you can share that file yourself online as well.
Okay, so you can either download already existing models that someone's already drawn up on a couple of websites. I can't remember them off the top of my head. And what software could you use to make stuff yourself?
So there's loads of free stuff. There's things like Microsoft 3D Paint. That's quite basic. That's almost like modelling in Minecraft. So it's lots of cubes and cylinders and circles and then you just sort of bolting those together. Or there's more complex stuff, right the way through to things like Onshape is a great example. That's a piece of free CAD software that works on a browser, very, very good. And you could model any of these things, anything of these things here, except something like this, because this is much more freeform. So again, there's free software and you can download that will allow you to model something like this. And if you imagine this is from maybe a Pixar or a Disney environment. And this is more from an engineering environment, if you look at the shape and the style of the modelling. You you can do stuff like that quite easily. And there's many online tutorials as well to teach you how to use the software as well. And then once you've got the file, if you imagine the file is in a standard format, so it's like a 3D version of English, and then you take that file, that language, you get a piece of software with the 3D printer, drop it into that, and then the software allows you to play around with some parameters, and then you create a thing called a G-code file, which is it slices the file and gives you all your little animations, and you see that on screen, and you save it onto an SD card, plug the SD card into the back of your 3D printer, press go on the front here, and away it goes.
Okay. So these printers, you say, are a good starting point for people getting into 3D printing?
I think if you have never seen 3D printing and never done 3D printing, I think this is about as simple as you're going to get. If you want to start creating commercially available components, that's a very different level of 3D printing. You're now going into sort of the industrial 3D printers that are possibly using a different style of technology, certainly using different levels of accuracy and different materials as well. But certainly for the home user and the home hobbyist that just wants to create some fun components and then equally usable components on their model railway layouts and their dioramas, this is a really good entry starting point. And yeah, we're doing some online deals and some online bundles. I think currently, at the moment, this is 135 quid or so as an online bundle. And you get a 3D printer and 4 spools of 3D prints as well, 3D filaments as well. Pretty good entry point.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, I'll definitely look into them. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
And thank you for talking to me.
Thank you. No problem.